Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Town Administrator Update, our chance to talk with Burlington Town Administrator Paul Sagarino about all the latest Burlington news. Paul, thanks for coming in once again and joining us.
No, thanks for having me. I know it's been a while.
Yes, well, we'll get to that at the end, but I'm glad to have you back.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So I guess one of the big things that happened since the last time we talked is that the tax rate for residents and businesses was set by the Board of Selectmen. Talk about, the options that were available to them and where they kind of came down.
Yep, we just recently did that before Thanksgiving, Rich, and that's typically when we have the public hearing on that. And again, I think the assessors did a really yeoman's work in valuing the property this year, given everything that's gone on with the pandemic impacting businesses in town. And I think they just did a great job, and I think things turned out a little bit better than we anticipated. You know, I think we all had, dire predictions for the future when the pandemic started, and I think our business community has shown that it's very, very resilient, and
Right.
I think we're not out of the woods yet, but I sort of feel as though we're on our way back as a community. So, given that the commercial values held up pretty strongly, and we all know that the residential values in town are doing extremely well for single-family homes and whatnot. We were able to set a tax rate with similar parameters than we have over the past several years. I believe it's about a $260 increase on the average single-family house. The average single-family house in town now is $602,000. I looked back, I think when I started here at the town, it was somewhere in the mid threes.
Wow.
So we've had some substantial real estate appreciation for the residential tax base as well. And in terms of the rate, we're able to hold the residential rate stable to what it was last year. But obviously with value growth in the properties, residents will notice an increase on their residential tax bill as well.
Right. So, like you just said, the rate stays the same, but because it's a rate on a higher valued property, then the bill goes up a little bit.
Correct. And again, the select board really focuses in on trying to manage that residential tax increase every year. And we've had some pretty difficult circumstances the past few years, and I think that I think we've done better than we would have anticipated in terms of being able to sort of mitigate the pandemic's impact onto the residential taxpayers.
Right. We're still in December, obviously, but we're coming up into January. We're starting to talk about town meeting. What are some of the things that people might be interested in, sort of like paying attention to as coming in this January session?
Well, as you know, the January session is sort of a much smaller session than our typical big one in May.
Yeah.
I did note that there were several zoning articles. Some of them are related to changing of uses at the mall to provide them with some more flexibility on the types of businesses that they could attract to the mall. Economic Development Office is proposing some changes in guidelines to sort of maintain our ability to be flexible with outdoor dining and things of that nature. It's working its way through the planning board process as we speak. And we have a couple of financial articles, probably the biggest of which is the school department will be submitting for funds for design work for the Fox Hill School.
Yes.
So that's probably the biggest ticket expenditure that we're anticipating for the warrant. The warrant actually, the deadline is today, so I'm not sure if there's anything additional back at the office, but.
Nothing big, just sitting on your desk waiting for you when you get back. All right, so maybe we won't have, too many nights of town meeting then.
I don't anticipate it. It doesn't look like there's anything super controversial on there. But there are some, like I say, a couple of zoning articles, possibly a general bylaw as well, and a couple other small financial articles as well.
Right. Like I said, we are in December, so obviously we're getting into the time of possible snow. I had to talk to John Sanchez, our DPW director, earlier this week, but I wanted to kind of rehash it with you. Just the, what residents should expect during a major snow event is because, maybe a little bit more of a delay in when their street gets plowed because we had a lack of drivers.
Correct, and I don't think it's any surprise to anybody. If you've driven around anywhere in eastern Massachusetts, you've probably seen the signs advertising for snowplow drivers. This is actually a trend that started several years ago, that folks just aren't interested in doing this kind of work anymore. So I give Public Works a lot of credit. Several years ago, they proposed to the select board that we were going to have to turn ourselves into a snow removal organization. So despite the fact that we've always used contractors and town personnel, we started ramping up our fleet to be able to do more of the snow removal work with town personnel. So we now have about 40 pieces of snow removal equipment. And again, this was something that John Sanchez brought forward several years ago. Select board supported it. The Ways and Means Committee supported sort of the change, as well as town meeting. So we're very grateful for that. But the one thing of note is that it may take a little bit longer to remove the snow. We don't have one of the things that having the access to contractors does is gives us the ability to do things a little bit quicker.
Right.
And we may not be able to do it quite as quickly, but we will be able to handle the whole town on just about any snow emergency with town personnel if we have to. So it's a little bit of a change, and I'm very grateful that they had the foresight to bring that plan forward, because this shortage of contractors has been going on for a couple of years. It's obviously exacerbated now with the pandemic and all that. So we're anticipating hopefully we'll have a low snowfall year. That's how I hope. But at the same time, we'll be ready for it, and we just ask residents to be patient. We will get there, and we will get the whole town cleared.
I, for one, am always hoping for a low snowfall year. Not a big fan of it.
Nah.
Last couple of things. Good news. The town recently received $1 million MassWorks grant. Can you talk about, that?
Sure. This is just another example of the state really does consider the town of Burlington a great partner in economic development. They know that we create jobs, we create housing. And as representative of that is last year they provided us with $3.5 million towards our MWRA water line, and they supplemented that with an additional $1 million this past year. So it's really, it's exciting, and it's just great that the state is able to recognize us financially like that. And again, they know that we put the money to good use, and their investment in Burlington will create jobs going forward. So we're really excited about that. And I think when the project's finally done and we're able to do an accounting of it, we'll be able to really be happy about how much outside funding we're able to get towards this project to, relieve the burden on the taxpayers to build this water line.
Yeah, definitely. And last thing, at the top of the segment, you did mention that it's been a little while because unfortunately you are out for a little bit, and you were definitely missed, but it seemed like, the rest of the team sort of stepped up and kept the town running. Just, how do you feel about how everything went?
Like I say, for those folks that didn't know, I had dealt with a really bad case of COVID. I was hospitalized, and add me onto the list of people that Leahy Hospital saved their life. So that's how bad it was, and it's been a long recovery. I'm finally about 85% back to normal, and I just have a great debt of gratitude to the town employees, town department heads, for just doing an outstanding job, in my absence. And my trusty assistant, John Denizio, is a great friend, and just an unbelievable assistant. And the way he stepped up and directed everything, and the way department heads and employees performed, it was just a pleasure not knowing. I didn't have to worry too much about what was going on here when I was dealing with my illness, and that's really a credit to our employees, our department heads, and my assistant town administrator. So they were just wonderful when I was out. And again, thank you to the community. I got a lot of great texts, phone calls, and cards while I was out, and it was really heartwarming to know that so many people were thinking of me at the time. So,
well, we're definitely glad that you're back on your feet in the office and
likewise
able to come back here to BCAT and hang out with us. Well, I think that will do it for this month. I would like to just wish you happy holidays and thank you once again for taking some time and coming in.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you, Rich, and it's always a pleasure to do this segment with you. Thank you.
Thank you.